Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Book marketing. Man, oh man, you don't know nothing about book marketing until you've done some book marketing for your own book, made all the mistakes, gotten it wrong, gotten it right, figured it out, and enlisted the help of some of your smart friends. So, my number one smart friend when it comes to book marketing is the amazing Stephanie Chandler. Stephanie, welcome back to the show.
David, it's always so fun to talk to you. Thanks for the invite.
So your latest and greatest, I am holding it here. The podcast people can't see that I'm holding it here, but trust me, folks, I'm holding it here, is this incredible workbook, blueprint, master plan called the Nonfiction Book Marketing and Launch Plan. Subtitle being Build Your Audience and Sell More Books. I wish I knew what it was about. Is it about building your audience and selling more books? Yes, it is. So I want to work through all of this. And one of the things that you talk about early in the book, which I can attest to 1,000%, you tell your readers, get ready to work, because these books are not going to sell themselves. These books, as fabulous as they are, and as difficult as the writing process and editing process, and you spent weeks choosing the perfect cover, and you're working with your publisher, and you're having a great time, and you're working with your editor, and you're probably wiping the sweat off your brow going, hey, this thing's about to go live on Amazon. This thing's about to go into the big world. I'm done. Well, my friends, that is not the finish line. That is, in fact, the starting line. So, Stephanie, talk to us a little bit about your clients, your audiences, your folks that you work with. What are some other common misconceptions about this entire book marketing and book launch process?
Yeah, I think so many authors wait until the book is out and then go, uh-oh, I don't have a plan, right? So this happens a lot. There's also a lot of bad information out there, David. I'm sure you've seen it too. But one of my long time pet peeves is that chase to be an Amazon bestseller for 5 hot minutes. There's really no long-term value in hitting the top of a category for 5 minutes. What we want to do as authors is maintain the top 10 of one or more categories for the long term, because that's how your book gets discovered. But that 5 minutes in the number one spot of a small subcategory on Amazon, while it's fun to see your book there, my book this past week has been a number one new release in 5 categories. That is super fun to talk about. But guess what? It means nothing in the long run. So we have to get ready to keep the marketing wheels turning.
Yes. So I wanted to heap praise on this fantastic workbook that you just released. So I've been around the block. I know a little bit about marketing. I know a little bit about book marketing. But the level of granularity and detail and specific instructions, checklists, brainstorming tools, worksheets, this is, I would say, the be-all, end-all. If people are going to buy one book about launching and marketing a book, as you just said, for the long term, not the flash in the pan, the launchy launch nonsense that so many people pitch and market and sell to newbie authors, but the real deal of long-term success, like having your book sell for not days and weeks, but for months and months and years after it comes out. This is the go-to book. So tell us a little bit about what's in the book, how you put it together, what's some of the thinking, and you obviously put yourself in the shoes of many of your nonfiction author clients and members. How did you have them in mind as you were putting all this together?
Well, first of all, thank you for those incredibly kind words. That is so nice to hear. This is a labor of love. So I started writing this workbook about 5 years ago. I was developing my book marketing master course. It's a 6-week program. And as you know, you're a teacher as well. As I'm creating this course, I'm creating, the companion content to go with it. And my initial goal was to come up with like 100-page downloadable workbook for the students. But like you said, there's a lot of detail and it just kept growing and growing. And my concern when people hear the word workbook is they're going to think it's full of blank pages. And as you can see, that is not the case at all. I think we counted up over 50 specific exercises, like go make a checklist, go build your database, go research this. So that's where it came from. And then it's kind of been refined and perfected over the last 5 years. And my students in my course kept coming back and saying, can we buy extra copies? I want to give them to my clients. I want to give them to my writer friends. And so we were like spitting out extra copies of this workbook and realizing maybe it has a broader audience. And I think you can appreciate, I tested it. I got a bunch of beta readers and I said, I need you to tell me if this content stands alone or do you need to take the course to get it? Not one of them said it couldn't stand alone. Every single one of 50 something people came back and said it works. And so I'm super proud of it because, my brain is very logical. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. And that's really the approach that I came from. And having worked with authors for 2 decades now, I feel like I've been in their shoes. I am walking in their shoes every day. So I always try to come from that place of what didn't I know when I was starting?
Yes, absolutely. And again, if people don't know, I mean, they will know because they're going to see the show notes. But if they don't know about your background as not only an author, but a bookseller and a publisher and a coach and a mentor to thousands and thousands of other authors, I always like to say, when you've sat on all 3 sides of the table, you learn a thing or two. You learn a thing or two.
You do.
So
Yeah.
you have totally, from all of those angles, as an author yourself with what, 6 or 7 books?
This is 11.
That's what I said. 11 books, having actually run a bookstore. I think you also wrote a book about running a bookstore back in the day.
I did.
And of course, all of the wonderful work that you do at the Nonfiction Authors Association. So you're getting a front row seat to thousands and thousands of authors' questions and experiences and mistakes and the myths that they believe in and some of the missteps, or not even missteps, but oversights. Yeah. Some of the things that are in this workbook that people might not even think about. And I'm gonna give you a shout out on one specific section. We're gonna dip in and out of the book throughout our chat, I'm sure. A lot of people say, well, okay, you need to have a way for readers to opt into your world, and you need something called a lead magnet. And a lot of other books say, you know what? Do a sample chapter. And then if the book is really ambitious, it'll say, do a sample chapter as a PDF, and then do a sample audio download. Oh, and maybe do a couple worksheets. You have 3.5 pages of lead magnet ideas in single space checklist format. I'm looking at this going, well, crap, I didn't do 2/3 of this stuff. I'm totally missing the boat here. So let's talk about when an author comes to work with you or an author comes to one of your events or conferences. What are some of the self-soothing delusions where they suddenly get their eyes opened like I just did with, holy smokes, there's a whole world of lead magnets. It's not just the sample chapter.
Oh my goodness, David. So this comes up a lot because I really believe in the email list. Social media is rented real estate. And so many authors, one of their first questions is, I need to get started on social media. What do I do? And I back it up and say, what are you doing for your email list? Because if you talk about order of priority, I think it's always the email list. We had this happen with Twitter several years ago. Our account evaporated. We lost 70,000 followers overnight. We didn't violate any policies. Like, we were sharing tips for writers. I spent months trying to get it back, to no avail. It was a huge lesson that I already knew anyway, because to me, email marketing is everything. It's never going to go away. It's the most captive audience that you can have. So that's where the lead magnets come in, and we should be focused on building that audience, doing things like I love to do free webinars. I love to teach. It's a great way for me to connect with a potential audience. So we do a lot of webinars. You asked me about what's my primary lead magnet for a podcast. We have a freebies page. So rather than just give one report, you can go to our freebies page and you have several options to choose from. And if you think of it from the terms of a subscriber, maybe I don't need the report on how to self-publish, but I do need the report on how to write a book proposal. Right. So we have these options to ensure that when someone visits the freebies page, there is something there that they want to sign up for.
Hang on. Let's back up the truck. Beep, 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 beep. Listen, I have a brand new sales book out there. You got to get your hands on it. It is awesome. It is amazing. It is fantastic. It is useful, practical, actionable, and a ton of bonuses are waiting for you over at doitselling.com. Grab your copy right now and grab all the bonuses, goodies, companion tools, and downloads that go with the book. You'll love it. I guarantee it. Because our audience is consultants and trainers and speakers and experts, and they're running probably an expert services firm, I'm going to ask you probably a question you'd have answered 1,000 times, but we're going to get the 2024 answer right now. Pros and cons of traditional publishing versus self-publishing versus hybrid / entrepreneurial publishing.
Oof. Okay. So I've done all three personally, and I know your books are traditionally published. And so early on, all I wanted was a book deal, right? That's the goal for most of us. Well, many of us. I'm not going to say most of us, but many of us want that traditional book deal. We want the validation. We want the credibility, all those things. And I was no exception. I wanted all those things. I sold 3 books through traditional publishing early on. And honestly, I grew disconcerted with the whole process. I did not like the lack of control. I have book covers I don't like. I had my book title changed. That usually takes them about a year to get a book to market. The last publisher called me up right before going to press and said, "We want you to remove a chapter. We don't care which one. We're trying to cut costs."
Oh,
I mean, which finger would you like to cut off my hand, right?
right.
So I thought, I am never letting that happen again. And by the way, David, I turned that situation into lemonade because I had to cut a chapter. So I took out the resources chapter, made it a bonus download for readers, and captured their email addresses, right? But I swore I was never going to let that happen again. And plus, they're not really doing the marketing, right? That's another myth. Oh, if I get a publisher, they'll handle all the marketing. Absolutely not. Publishers are still relying on authors to do the marketing. So there I was building this community, and I'm earning $1 a book, and they're reaping all the benefits, and they're selling me my books at half off retail when I know that they're printing that for 20% of retail, right? Or even less. So those are kind of the downsides of traditional publishing. Just the lack of control for me was huge. The time to market, the minimal payments. Pros have always been that they put you on bookstore shelves. Well, that's less important today. You know, there's some people estimating 70% of all books are now sold on Amazon. We don't know for sure. But I mean, I don't know about you. I still love to wander into a bookstore. I'm a former bookstore owner, but I'm buying my books online like everyone else, right? So that doesn't have the cachet that it used to have. So self-publishing comes in, and here you are. You have all the control, all the creative control. You can get it to market very quickly. You can hire all the right people to make it look like it came off a traditional press. So there's a ton of benefits on that side. You're still going to do the marketing anyway.
Yeah.
And then hybrid publishing, which is a relatively new term, but basically you're paying a publishing partner to do all the heavy lifting, to do your editing, your cover design, your typesetting, your ebook formatting, get your distribution set up. And this is a really popular option for the types of people in your community, for consultants and speakers who don't want to go through the many, many steps to self-publish. I mean, it's a lot of work. So that's where a lot, especially of business professionals, are landing today, is in that hybrid space.
Fantastic. Another big, important piece of work that I think a lot of authors overlook, And maybe it's ego, maybe it's ignorance, maybe it's some combination of ego plus ignorance. You spend a lot of time in this workbook talking about building your tribe of influence. And that is a many spoked wheel. Give us a breakdown of who should be in a nonfiction author's tribe of influence.
Yeah, I love this example because especially newer authors will say, well, I don't have a platform. I don't have a bunch of followers yet. And I'll say, I bet it's bigger than you think because you know people. You know people that you maybe went to school with 30 years ago. Maybe it's, your next door neighbor from 3 houses ago who now works at a tech company and you write books for tech companies, right? So you really want to sit down and think about, who do you know? The people that you know, especially those that aren't yet authors themselves, will be amazed that you wrote a book, right? They will be so impressed by that. They like you, they know you, they want to support you. So I recommend, and I do this exercise myself, every time I launch a book, I sit down and I think about, who do I know who would help support the book in some way? You were one of those people, right? I sent you an email. I said, hey, the book is coming. I'd appreciate any support. You said, let's get on the podcast. And I said, thank you. This is what we do with our immediate tribe of influence. You and I are friends going way back. So you reach out to those people in your community, and then you expand that wheel to who should you know, right? Who are the influencers in your space? Who has podcasts that reach your target audience? What trade associations reach your target audience? Could you be getting involved there? What publications reach your target audience? Whose blogs could you guest post on? So it is a big wheel that gets bigger and bigger. And then you suddenly realize, wow, I have more connections than I thought I did. And it really helps you get your book off and running.
I think another thing that struck me as I was reading through the chapters, we need to really exercise our ask muscle, asking. So, for example, with endorsements, people are listening like, wow, I would love it. I'm coming out with a new book. I would love a Stephanie Chandler endorsement. I would love a Seth Godin endorsement. I would love a Brian Tracy endorsement. Talk about what's the magic of endorsements and share a little bit about the power of asking.
Oh my gosh. I mean, when you ask, you have nothing to lose, right? I mean, you have something to lose if you never ask. And endorsements have always been fascinating to me because I have a Brian Tracy endorsement. I had interviewed Seth Godin for one of my books. I could go on and on and on. So the point is, when we ask and we do so in the most professional way possible, it's of benefit to other authors to put their stamp of approval on your book because it's good exposure for them too. Where I see a lot of authors go wrong is they send this 2-page email, right? I just got one earlier this week from an author asking me to endorse their book, and it went on and on and on and on and on. And the book, by the way, had absolutely nothing to do with my industry. And so it made no sense. I had to say, it wouldn't help you to put me as an endorser on your memoir. That is not my genre.
Right.
Right. So really, and I know you know this as well, as professionals, we want to get short and sweet. Hey, David Newman, I love your books. I'm a huge fan. My book is coming out next spring, and I would love if you would consider writing an endorsement. By the way, you'll be in good company because it's already been endorsed by Brian Tracy and Michael Gerber, and, make your list. And as you collect endorsements, you add that to your pitch, right? And maybe in your tribe of influence, you get introduced to one good name that leads to the rest. So don't be afraid to ask. Reach them through social media. A lot of them check their own DMs. That was a big discovery that I had in doing this myself, was when you send an email, it's probably an assistant clearing out the inbox, right? But when you send a DM, you can even get celebrities answering their own DMs. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you also about something that I neglected to do with my first 2 books, and I did with my 3rd book, the Do It Selling book, which is beta readers.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've experienced this the way that you lay out in the workbook, I'm never writing another book ever without beta readers. It was so valuable, so helpful, not just in the writing process, but also in the marketing process. So talk about the multi-layered wonderful benefits of the whole beta reader strategy.
Well, I'm with you. I mean, I wrote 9 books without beta readers. And then my 10th book, I leveraged beta readers and I was amazed. And so beta readers are there for a couple of different reasons. The most traditional way is to get editorial feedback on a manuscript, right? So, and it might be as light as you want them to help you catch copy edit mistakes, or you might say, is this organized? Does it make sense? What's confusing? You might really want to get some detailed feedback. Now, when I did my first round of beta readers, my previous book, I set a goal of 100 beta readers and I put out a call and I got 401 applications. I accepted 400 of them and said, the more eyeballs on this manuscript, the better. But I wasn't looking for editorial feedback because what you just said, the other benefit of beta readers is they help you promote the book, right? So they get the word out on launch day. They write your early reviews on Amazon. They do all of those things. And my experience with that, I was really touched by my beta readers because they didn't have to go buy the book, but many of them did.
Yeah.
They'd already seen it in multiple iterations. So the fact that they went to buy the book, had a verified purchase check next to their review, and then I'm seeing them post all over social media, right, at lunchtime was really rewarding. I will never, like you, launch a book ever again without beta readers. They're your true fans, right? You're your best promoters of that book.
They really, really are. And I, like you, initially, I was not all that interested in the editorial feedback. I was interested in the marketing juice behind this. But I'll tell you, the editorial feedback was flippin' fantastic. And I was like, I'm so glad I did this.
I mean, had the exact
from
same
catching
experience.
errors
Yes.
to, I had little funny phrases and funny jokes in there. Nobody, there's one particular thing, nobody got it. Like nobody. And they're highlighting it because you can see kind of, the group highlighting. It just irritated and confused them. So I was like, I love that joke. Gone, out of here. Believe it or not, and sometimes this stuff is silly, but beta readers are representative of the larger audience of readers. I had a phrase in there, mano a mano, which, my friends, is Spanish for hand to hand. A number of beta readers, all of whom were very intelligent, very smart people, said, that sounds like a sexist term. Don't you want women to read this book? And rather than argue, if I just heard it once from one reader, I'd be like, oh, you're just being silly. Come on, it's Spanish. It means hand to hand. Multiple people, like there was a pattern of mano a mano. That, I don't know, is it just for men? So even though I was quote unquote right, I wanted to be understood more than I wanted to be right. So I took it out. And that's a silly example, but there were such substantial, amazing feedback, criticism. This could use a story. I think you said that before back on page 22. It's like, oh my God, I did say that before. The same exact sentence appears on page 90 and on page 22. How many times do we let stuff like that go because you're so close to it, you can't even read the book anymore?
And your editor didn't catch it because guess what? Editing is a human function. They're not, superheroes. They're humans like you and me. So yeah. I couldn't agree more. And the exact same experience. I wasn't looking for editorial feedback. I got it anyway. And I was so grateful.
Absolutely. Let's talk about another mystery shrouded in an enigma, which you talk about in detail in the workbook, which is bulk book sales. Most nonfiction authors, I think, totally overlook this, don't even know what it is really or how it works. So rather than selling onesies, talk to me about bulk book sales. What does that mean and how do we start thinking about it?
Well, I would say a bulk book sale is anything over maybe 25 copies at a time, right? Okay. And who wouldn't love to sell 25 copies of your book once a week, or 50 or 100 or 500 or 1,000, right? And especially in the business space, right? You're working with business professionals. This is an opportunity to have your clients buy your books prior to a speaking engagement, to coincide with a consulting engagement, whatever it is. You should be absolutely pre-selling books in the largest quantities possible. If you're self-publishing, you have this opportunity to put custom logos on book covers. right? So I have a buddy, Carl Palachuk. He teaches IT companies how to build their businesses. And he goes out to tech companies and says, hey, buy 1,000 copies of my book. We'll throw your logo on it. You can put an intro page in the book. He charges, get this, $3,000 setup fee plus the price for all the books and the shipping and all the things. And so you can do that all day long if you're reaching clients that want the content that's in your book.
Yeah, really, really powerful. And again, I think there's just so much in this workbook that people either haven't thought about or they've heard the idea, but you detail the idea and then you turn the page and it's like, okay, your turn. Because there's so many publishing books and book marketing books where the concepts are great. The theory, the idea is beautiful. Authors will read those and then they close the book at whatever chapter they're in and they ask themselves, now what? What do I do with that? Where do I go with that? How do I start, putting my plan together? Your book has all the amazing strategies plus the now what, with the worksheets, the templates, the checklists, the forms, the brainstorming tools, so that literally it's almost like you can't escape. You can't escape. It's like, oh, good idea. Oh, crap, there's a worksheet. Oh, that sounds like it's really smart. Oh, darn, there's a checklist, meaning I have to do the work. I have to engage with all the brilliance I just read and say, okay, what's my version of that? What's my audience? Who's my tribe of influence? Who are my endorsers going to be? What are the blogs and the podcasts that I should start to target? Who are the association executives I should accidentally on purpose start bumping into and building relationships with? So just so totally fantastic. If folks were to take one overarching idea from our conversation today about all of the amazing things that are in the book marketing and launch plan workbook, what would kind of the big takeaway idea be?
So I would say you started out saying, it takes work. And I think who doesn't love a shortcut, right? I'd love to go to the gym twice a month and lose 20 pounds. It doesn't work that way. Right. So we have to develop a level of commitment, but also see the prize at the end of that commitment. Right. So it takes time to build an audience. It takes time to build your email list. Selling books is a long game, but most nonfiction has a long lifespan. And so I would say committing to the work and looking for the prize at the end, especially if you are using your book to get speaking engagements or consulting gigs or whatever it is, that credibility, all the benefits of building your tribe, your community, your subscriber base ultimately has way more benefits than just making $5 off a book, right?
Yes.
Corporate sponsors, just so many things are at the end of that rainbow if you do the work. And it takes years. You and I have been at this for years.
Yes, I know. Terrific episode here, but have you seen our latest web training? Oh my goodness, pop over there right now, or as soon as you're done listening to this episode, it's doitmarketing.com/webinar. See you over there. Back to the good stuff. The thing that really struck me, Stephanie, about the workbook, and this struck me sort of informally back when my first book came out, because I was doing all this work to market the book and promote the book and so on and so forth. But going through this workbook right now, everything that you're doing to market the book also markets your business. And everything that you're not doing to market your business, you probably should be doing to market your book, and they go hand in glove. So it's not just to sell books. As you said a moment ago, everything in the launch plan workbook is going to help you be a better marketer of all the services and all the programs that you or your consulting firm or your training company or your coaching company sell. So it literally raises the visibility and the credibility of every aspect of your business, not just your book strategy.
Amen to that. I couldn't have said it better.
So I know that people want to connect with you more. Where can we send them to learn more about Stephanie? We'll learn more about the Nonfiction Authors Association, your events, your fabulous book. Where can we send them? What links should be in the show notes?
Thank you. Nonfictionauthorsassociation.com is kind of the hub for everything. You'll see the book there. courses for authors, book marketing, book publishing, book publicity. All the courses are there. And then in May, every year, we have a Nonfiction Writers Conference. That's simply nonfictionwritersconference.com. We've had some phenomenal speakers, especially in recent years. Last year, we had Cheryl Strayed, Anna Quinlan, Don Miguel Ruiz, Martha Beck, Guy Kawasaki, Seth Godin. We've had phenomenal speakers. And I'm working on our May speaker at this moment. So I can't tell you yet, but it's always the goal every year to try to raise the bar a little higher, a little higher. So I'd love to see you all, nonfictionauthorsassociation.com or nonfictionwritersconference.com.
And is there a specific goodies page that we can share with people?
So the freebies page you'll see in the main nav at nonfictionauthorsassociation.com. It's already a long link. We don't need to make it longer.
And there is a huge bouquet of wonderfulness that people can engage with and download and start or continue or upgrade their author journey.
Absolutely. And we do a ton of free content in our blog, our podcast, all the things on the whole journey from writing your book to publishing to marketing to building revenue streams around the book. That's all that we cover through our content.
Amazing. Well, Stephanie Chandler, you are a rock star. I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship and much more fun to come. I can't wait to get this workbook in the hands of many, many, many budding and experienced authors who desperately need the guidance and the support and the help that you give them.
Thank you so much, David. So fun to talk to you. And thanks for all the kind words about the book. It means so much to me.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.